Om Namo Narayanaaya. Om Namo Narayanaaya.
श्रीशैलेशदयापात्रं धीभक्त्यादिगुणार्णवं यतीन्द्रप्रवणं वन्दे रम्यजामातरं मुनिम् लक्ष्मीनाथसमारम्भां नाथयामुनमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्तां वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम् यो नित्यम् अच्युतपदाम्बुजयुग्मरुक्मव्यामोहतस्तदितराणि तृणाय मेने अस्मद्गुरोर्भगवतोऽस्य दयैकसिन्धोः रामानुजस्य चरणौ शरणं प्रपद्ये लोकाचार्याय गुरवे कृष्णपादस्य सूनवे संसारभोगिसन्दष्टजीवजीवातवे नमः।
श्रीशैलेशदयापात्रं धीभक्त्यादिगुणार्णवं यतीन्द्रप्रवणं वन्दे रम्यजामातरं मुनिं यो नित्यमच्युतपदाम्बुजयुग्मरुक्मव्यामोहतः तदितराणि तृणाय मेने अस्मद्गुरोर्भगवतोऽस्य दयैकसिन्धोः रामानुजस्य चरणौ शरणं प्रपद्ये लोकाचार्याय गुरवे कृष्णपादस्य सूनवे संसारभोगिसन्दष्टजीवजीवातवे नमः. Continue with the 22nd sutra. So I am having a slight cold. I hope you will not mind the inconvenience. Avayavana vatsalyamum swamitvam saushilyamum saulabhyamum jnanamum shaktiyum. So these are the 6 important qualities that are denoted by the word Narayana in this context. So we have discussed the importance and the significance of the 3 qualities, namely Swamitvam, Saushilyam and Saulabhyam. So I will just give a brief account of Saulabhyam once again and then proceed further. Saulabhyamavade Kannik Vishayamannikke Irekkiradan Kannale Kande Ashraikalam Padi Eliyanai. So what is the meaning or significance of the quality called Saulabhyam? So in Sanskrit, there is a word, there are 2 words called Sulabha and Durlabha, which are mutually opposite or which are antonyms. Sulabha. Labha means that which can be attained. Sulabha means that which can be attained very easily. Whereas Durlabha means that which can be attained with great difficulty. So Labhasya bhaha Sulabhya. Nature of a person who is known as Sulabha or who can be attained easily is known as Saulabhya. So the literal translation of the word Saulabhya would be easy attainability or something like that. If you translate it literally into English. What is the factor that defines easy availability? It is very beautifully explained by Swami Manavada Mamuni. He says, Kannik Vishayamannikke Irekkiratan Kannale Kande Ashraikalam Padi Eliyana Irekkai. So there are 2 aspects here. One is the Supreme Lord is not easily or he cannot be seen to be very in the initial stage. Full statement in the Shastras which say Na mamsa chakshuhu abhivikshatetam. That means, or they call it as charma chakshus or mamsa chakshus. That means this eye Na mamsa chakshuhu abhivikshate tam. That means this external eye, which is also known as the mamsa chakshus, means the chakshus are the eye which is made out of meat, or it is also known as charma chakshuhu. That means the external eye. It's as simple as that, nothing more than that. This external eye cannot cognize the Supreme Lord. This is the general rule. Even in the Bhagavatam, there is a very beautiful statement. How can one see the Supreme Lord, or how can one have the vision of the Supreme Lord? So there is a very beautiful shloka in Srimad Bhagavatam, and I am sure Keshav ji would be very much aware of this shloka. It says, Yam Brahma Varunendra Rudra Marutaha Stunvanti Divyaistavaihi Vedai Sanga Padakramopanishadaihi Gayantiyam Samagaha Dhyanavasthita Tadgatena Manasa Pashyantiyam Yoginaha Yasyantam Navidusura Suraganaha Devaya Tasmai Namaha. So in the third pada, or the third quarter, there is a very interesting statement which says, Dhyanavasthita Tadgatena Manasa Pashyantiyam Yoginaha. The Supreme Lord is, of course, the subject of vision. But whose vision? Not the vision of ordinary people like us. On the other hand, he is seen. He is very well cognized by the yogis who can see him, or who are able to see him when they are in the state of deep meditation. And when they have dedicated their entire selves to the devotion of the Supreme Lord. So, dhyanavasthita tadgatena manasa. So, when the mind is fully focused on the Supreme Lord in such a way that it is in a state of dhyana. What is dhyana? Bhagavad Ramanujacharya very beautifully describes it as Tailadharavati avichinna smriti santatihi. It's a continuous process of remembrance which is unhindered by anything else. It is, there is no different thought other than the Supreme Lord only, Supreme Lord and Supreme Lord only, which is in the form of, which is like when you pour oil from one vessel to another, there is a continuous flow, unhindered flow, without oil becoming more, becoming less, etc. Falling at a faster pace, falling at a slower pace, etc. Unlike water. So that is known as dhyana. So continuous, unhindered process of remembrance of a particular entity is known as dhyana. So dhyanavasthita tadgatena manasa. And when they have surrendered their minds to the Supreme Lord, then what happens? They are able to see. Such yogis are able to see the Supreme Lord. That is why in the Bhagavad Gita also it says, Tapasvibhyo adhiko yogi, jnanibhyo pi matodhikaha, karmibhyashcha adhiko yogi, tasmad yogi bhavarjuna. Now that is very well commented upon by Ramanujacharya, who says it is nothing but bhakti yoga. So tapasvibhya adhikaha yogi. This yogi or the supreme devotee of the Lord is supreme devotee of the Supreme Lord is higher than tapasvins. He is higher than the jnanis who try to attain him by means of the path of jnana. And he is such a person, such a bhakta or devotee who is engaged in bhakti yoga is superior to karmibhyashcha adhiko yogi, a person who tries to attain the Supreme Lord by means of karma. And therefore Lord Krishna says, Tasmad yogi bhavarjuna. So dhyanavasthita tadgatena manasa pashyantiyam yoginaha. So the Supreme Lord cannot be seen by the external eye. On the other hand, it is very important because it is going to come next. To see the Supreme Lord, on his own accord, purely with the intention of blessing us, subjects himself to our external eye also in the form of Archavatara, or the Archa form, or the iconic form. So here, the Saulabhya or easy approachability is his, though he is beyond everything, beyond the minds of every person. And so it says, Brahmadya Sakala Devaha Yendas Martumapi Ishwaraha. Brahma, Indra, Rudra, and all the other demigods, very, very most superior, most demigods. Even they cannot command the remembrance of the Supreme Lord by themselves. They also have to surrender to the Lord to have his divine mission. So, what about ordinary persons like us? But the Supreme Lord is so sulabha, he is so easily approachable, that though he is beyond the vision of even the greatest demigods like Brahma, Vishnu, Maheshwara, etc., Brahma, Maheshwara, Indra, etc., he subjects himself to the external vision also of ordinary persons like us also. That is why when the Archa form is defined in the Agamas, it is said as Sakala Manuja Nayana Vishayatangataha Murti Visheshaha. The iconic form is such a beautiful, wonderful form that is cognized by all human beings through their external eyes also. So that is the Kashtha, that is the height of Saulabhya. There cannot be something which is more Sulabha or more easily approachable than this. This is the highest standard of easy approachability. Nobody can make it more simpler other than the Supreme Lord himself, as he has made it simpler. But in everything, there also lies, we have to have a word of caution that when he becomes so easily approachable, there are also chances of our committing sins towards him. So we have to be very careful in that regard also. So this is the greatest aspect, which is known as Saulabhya or easy approachability. Then the fifth quality, Jnanam. Jnanamavane Ichetanakku Kadikka Vendum Arishtangalayum Kodukka Vendum Ishtangalayum Neraha Varikkai Kedana Sovyetirikta Samasta Padarthangalayum Urukkale Aparokshikka Vallavarivu. So what is the significance or importance of the knowledge of the Supreme Lord? If you translate Jnana as knowledge. Ichetanakku Kadikka Vendum Arishtangalayum Kodukka Vendum Ishtangalayum Neraha Varikkai Kedana Sovyetirikta Samasta Padarthangalayum Urukkale Aparokshikka Vallavarivu. So the Supreme Lord has the most important knowledge as far as we are concerned. He is omnipresent, omniscient, omnipotent, etc. Sarvajna, Sarvashakta, etc. etc. Sarvajnatva is having the knowledge of everything past, present, and future all over the world, etc. All over the universe, or across all the universes. That is his greatness. But how is it relevant to ordinary Jivatmas or individual souls like us? The answer is, he has that sense of discretion, sense of knowledge, where he says, these are the aspects that a Jivatma needs to know essentially. And these are the aspects that he has to unlearn, he has to give up. So many a times we don't realize that a process of learning is also a process of unlearning. To learn something correct, you have to unlearn several things that are incorrect. So that is why Swami Madhuvada Baba says, Kadikka Vendum Arishtangalayum Kodukka Vendum Ishtangalayum. That is why when the concept of Rakshakatva or protectorship came. What is the significance, or what is the most important feature of protectorship or protection? It was very beautifully explained in the Tirumantra Prakarana by Swami Pudlalokacharya when he says, Rakshikeyavane Arishta Nivartakatvam Ishtaprapakatvam. So when it said that the Supreme Lord protects us, what does he do? Does he, that is it is very beautifully said, Nadeva Dandamadaya Pashyanti Pashupa Rakshanti Pashupanavati. So what does protection mean in this context? So what does protection mean? Does it mean that just like a cowherd, you have to add in the Indian context? So he will have a big stick with him and he will go behind the cows, and he will, whenever there is some danger to the cows, he will actually ward off that danger by means of his big long staff. Similarly, Nadeva, is protection used in this sense, in this context? So that is why it said, Nadevaha Dandamadaya Rakshanti Pashurakshavati or Pashupanavati. So the demigods, when they want to protect somebody, they will not have a staff in their hand and protect us just like a cowherd protects the cows. On the other hand, it is said, Yantu Rakshitum Ichanti Sadbuddhya Yojayantitam or Buddhya Samyojayantitam. When the demigods want to protect us, what they will do is, they will ensure that they will endow us with the capacity to properly discern or distinguish between the good and bad and follow the good things. So they endow us with Buddhya Samyojayanti or Sadbuddhya Yojayanti. They enable us to think properly. So many times I used to ask a question when I was young. So suppose a person, there is a plan to kill a person and 25 people are ready to kill him as soon as he enters a place. So how can God protect him when 25 people are ready to kill him with swords or pistols or AK-47s or something like that? Only later in my life I realized the God will make a situation, or he will create such a situation where the person for whom 25 people are waiting to kill him, that person will never go in that route at all. He will not even go to that place. On that day, his mind will be, or he will be forced by some person or some situation to go in the opposite direction. No, not 25 people, even if 250 people are waiting to kill him with all sorts of weapons, and they are the best shooters, best killer, best swordsman or something like that, they will not be able to kill, because he doesn't even appear there, or he doesn't even come there. Similarly, when the concept of protection, as far as the Supreme Lord is concerned, is he will do Anishta Nivritti and Ishta Prapti. He will ward off all that is detrimental to us, all that we don't want to happen. And he will ensure that all things that are liked by us or that beneficial to us happen. So this is the definition of protection. So in this context, what happens? The Supreme Lord is endowed with the knowledge and capability. That is why Shakti is the next one. Shakti is capability. Sometimes we have the knowledge, but we are not capable to do something. Now I know what I have to do. So for example, if it's chanting of Mahashtakshara Mahamantra, I know it has to be chanted 8 lakh times or 800,000 times. But I may not have the capacity. So knowledge always has to be coupled with Shakti or capacity. Or suppose I know how to brandish an AK-47 rifle. Theoretically, I may know, but suppose it ricochets and I will lose my arm itself if I don't handle it properly. Because I don't have the power to use it. So, it It is very important. Jnana and Shakti are two mutually interdependent qualities. So in this context, knowledge means இச்சேதனனுக்கு கழிக்க வேண்டிய அனிஷ்டங்களையும் கொடுக்க வேண்டும் இஷ்டங்களையும் நேராக அறிக்கைக்கு ஈடான ஸ்வவ்யதிரிக்த சமஸ்த பதார்த்தங்களையும் ஒருக்காலே அபரோக்ஷவல்ல வெறிவு. So he is fully aware of what are the aspects that need to be given or to be endowed or to be granted to the ordinary individual soul. And also he is very well aware of that has to be withdrawn from the individual soul. So that is that knowledge which is known as jnana in this context, that is useful to our existence for our fulfillment. And the sixth quality is Shakti. Adavadu heyana nitya samsarihalai upadeye tamaraha tamarana nitya surihalodu oru koveyakvalla aghadita ghatana samarthyam. So there is a lot of debate and discussion whether there is something called nitya samsari or eternally bonded soul. Samsari means bonded soul. So is there an eternally bonded soul or not? So if you accept that there is an eternally bonded soul, it will result in several inconsistencies or theories that become inconsistent. So that is a very, very tricky or very complicated theory, whether to accept that there is a nitya samsari or not, that is an eternally bonded soul or not. So if you accept that there are eternally bonded souls, then there are some inconsistencies or things that become untenable. If you don't accept also, there are certain things that become untenable. Because one school of thought is nitya samsaris exist. Because it is mentioned by Lord Krishna that Kshipam Yajasrama Shubhane Asurishve Vayonishu Asurim Yonimapannaha Mudha Janmani Janmani Mamaprapyaiva Kaunteya Mrityu Samsara Vartmani. So Lord himself says they are eternally banned from coming to me. And they will always remain the samsara, or they will be the cycle of births and deaths. But here, Swami Madhavana Muni says, the Shakti or the divine power of the Supreme Lord is that he can convert a Nitya Samsari into a person who can attain moksha, and he can equate, he can put him on an equal keel or equal status with Nitya Suris like Ananta, Garuda, Vishwatsena, etc. So here it means Swami Madhavana Muni seems to have accepted the existence of Nitya Samsari. But then the contradiction that one has to answer is, if he is a Nitya Samsari or eternally bonded soul, and he comes under the grace of the Supreme Lord and he becomes liberated, then how is the word Nitya Samsari or eternally bonded soul valid? So that's a very tricky question that needs to be answered, but let us not worry about it now. So here the word Shakti means Heyarana Nitya Samsarihali Upadeya Tamarana Nitya Surihalodu Orukoveyakavalla Aghadita Ghatana Samarthyam. So the Supreme Lord is said to be endowed with the capacity or unfathomable happen. So that is known as Aghatita Ghatana. That means he can facilitate something which can never be facilitated. So once again, it seems to be a mutually contradictory term, because when you say that you are facilitating something that can never be facilitated, then how do you say that event that can never be facilitated, or that would have never been facilitated? Because you have facilitated it now. A very, very, very tricky logical question. So we will keep this in mind and we can discuss this later. So here the word Shakti denotes the unique capability, exalted capability of the Supreme Lord, where he can convert a Nitya Samsari or eternally bonded soul and bring him on par with the Nitya Suris who are most liked by him. So this Agatita Katana Samarthya, or capacity to make something that is totally unthinkable, unfathomable, unimaginable, impossible, possible. So these are the unique aspects of the 6 qualities that are denoted by your Narayana. So why this order and why these 6 only is the next question. That is answered by Swami Madhavadami in a beautiful manner. He says, Ivattil Vatsalyadihil Nalum Ashrena Saukaryapadakam Jnanadihidindum Ashrita Karyapadakam Niharil Pohdai in the Todangi Vatsalyadihil Nalayumire Ashrena Kudalaha Alvarudi Chaitade Jnana Shakti Hadirindum Shandavide Prapti Purti Helakupalakshanam Karyakaratvatuk Vayum Apekshitangalahi Ade or Karyakaratvatuk Kavayum Apekshitangalahi Ade. So the first 4 qualities, namely Vatsalya, Swamitva, Saushilya, and Saulabhya. These 4 qualities are significant because these 4 are most important if an ordinary individual soul has to approach the Supreme Lord. That means he should be easily approachable. He should easily give in to our wishes, etc., which is mentioned by Vatsalya, Saushilya, Saulabhya, etc. So suppose there is a person who is very adamant, who is very strict, and who strictly goes by the rules. Suppose I have to get a job done by an officer in the government or some agency where the officer is very adamant. He is a stickler for rules, as they call him. And he always goes by the rules. He says, no. If it is according to the rules, you come to me. Otherwise, you don't come to me. I am not even ready to listen to what you want to say, etc. Then can a person approach such a person? Can anyone approach such a person? No. Oh, he is a totally unapproachable person. He is so rigid. He is so adamant. How can I go to him? We'll ask. Whereas, if a person is very friendly, he is ready to first listen to what we want to say. And also, he has the quality of trying to help us or wanting to help us. That is why when we approach some officers, they will say, I want to help you. On the other hand, I cannot break the rules. But since I want to help you by all means, I will try to bend the rules. I will see how I can say one can actually apply this particular clause in a particular act or something like that, so that his task is accomplished. Or there is an exception to this rule, so I can say that you will come under this exception or something like that. So that is why in the Indian context, when we are dealing with some very rigid rules, the person who is applying the rules, if he wants to help us, if he is easily approachable, he has a mentality to help others, he will say, as an officer, I will not break the rules, but I will try to bend them. I will try to see how you can be considered as such and such a person under this rule, and then I will extend the benefits of that scheme or something, whatever it is, to you. So these are the qualities called Saulabhya, Saushilya, Vatsalya, etc. So these 4 qualities enable the individual soul or Jivatma to approach him without any inhibition. Then once we approach him, once we surrender to him, approach him and we surrender unto him, then the two qualities that facilitate his accepting our request and granting us moksha or liberation is what is known as jnana and shakti. So he has the knowledge of what needs to be done, and he also has the capability to do it. So these two are the qualities that are present in him that facilitate he being able to, and he ultimately protecting us by granting us the Parama Purushartha or the Supreme Purushartha of moksha or salvation. So why these six qualities only? Why not several other Saushilya, Vatsalyamardavar, Javasauharda, Samya, Karunya, Madhurya, Gambhirya, Udarya, Chaturya, Sthairya, Dhairya, Shaurya, Parakrama, Satyakama, Satya Sankalpa, Krititva, Kritagnyatadi, etc. Bhagavad Ramadacharya in this Gadyatraya, he gives a long list of good qualities that are there in the Supreme Lord. And even in the Ramayana, in the first Sarga itself, Buddhiman, Nitiman, Vagmi, Sriman, Shatrudibarhanaha, Rakshita, Jivalokasya, Sadirasya, Rakshita, Gudha, Sutam, Raksha. So many qualities are enumerated. But here are those qualities relevant. Of course, all his qualities are worshipable. They need to be worshipped, they need to be adored. That's a different thing. But when a Jivatma or individual soul is approaching the Supreme Lord, saying that he should overlook all his sins, which he has knowingly or unknowingly committed, then which are the qualities that are relevant to this context? If this question is asked, the answer is, these are the six qualities. And why six? Why not more? They are also, as far as the relevance, the current context is concerned. So, first four are to ensure his easy approachability. And second, the subsequent two are that once we approach him, he will not leave us. He will not abandon us. So once we approach him, he will not abandon us because he is endowed with that with the knowledge of what needs to be done and also with the capability of doing what needs to be done. So this is the meaning of the 23rd Sutra. Further, it is very beautifully explained by Swami Lokacharya when he says, Kutram Kandi Veruvaikkivat Salyam Karyam Shayavenni Tudikaik Swamitvam Swamitvam Kandahalavaikki Saushilyam Kandapattu Hek Saulabhyam Virohi Poki Tamnek Kodukaik Jnana Shakti Hal. So it is explained by Swami Lokacharya also. Though Manavana Mamani in his Vyakhyana has given the significance, Swami Lokacharya also gives a few more dimensions to it. He adds a few more dimensions. So he says, why is Vatsalya required? Kutram Kandu Veruva Maiki. So, why is the quality of Vatsalya very significant? Because the Supreme Lord should not feel bad or he should not desist from protecting us by seeing the sins that are present in us. So Vatsalya is a quality that is very much significant in this context in the Supreme Lord because he should not desist. He should not feel bad that, oh, I have to accept this Jivatma who is full of sins. So that should not be the case. Of course, he has sins. It is not very important. Or these sins are committed by my own progeny. So I should not worry. In fact, I should enjoy them. And since he has surrendered, I have to accept them. So that is the feature of his having Vatsalya. Karyam Shayyumendu Tudi Kaik Swamitvam. He is the Supreme Lord. So he can transgress any rules. It is not called as transgression. Since he himself has set these rules, he can overlook those rules. It's not a question of breaking rules. It's not a question of transgressing the rules. He can overlook these rules because he is the person who has laid down the rules. So suppose I have laid down some rules for my own daily routines. One day suddenly a very elderly person will come to see me. Then I will overlook. I will say, today I will not do this because such a great person has come to see me. I will give up my daily routine. What is so great about it? So Karyam Shayyumendu Tudikaik Swamitvam. Swamitvam Kanda Ahalamikki Saushilyam. But when it comes to Swamitva or being the supreme, then how can a supreme being who is the master of all the universes, several millions and trillions or billions of universes? So we call it as Akila Andakoti Brahmanda Nayaka. Several Andakotis or cosmic eggs in which there are several thousands or millions of solar systems, etc. How many are there? Nobody knows. Scientifically also, it's a proven fact. So what happens? How it happens? So how is it that a person who is the supreme master of all these things, how can an ordinary person like me or you approach him? This question is not valid because he has the quality of Saushilya, Sushila. He is endowed with such a divine, wonderful quality that ordinary or the most ordinary person can approach him without any hesitation. So that is the feature or importance or significance of the quality called Saushilya. Then, what is the importance or significance of Saudabhya? Once you approach him, you can easily attain him. So easy attainability is what is known as Saudabhya. Then two more qualities, that is Jnana and Shakti. Virodhiyai pokki tannai kodukkaikku Jnana Shakti. So the Supreme Lord is endowed with the knowledge and also the capability to overlook all our sins that we have performed, knowingly or unknowingly. And then he can grant the Paramapada or Moksha to us. This capability and will to grant us Moksha or Paramapada is what is signified by the two qualities of Jnana and Shakti, extremely pure beings. Virodhiyai pokki tannai kodukkaikku Jnana Shakti. So this is commented upon in a very beautiful manner by Swami Madhavala. He says, இக்குணங்களுக்கு இவ்விடத்தில் விநியோகங்கள் என்ன இந்த அருளி செய்கிறார். So here, in the 24th Sutra, 23rd Sutra, Swami Madhavala Babri says that, he says, though the Supreme Lord has these 6 qualities, how are they relevant in the present context, which is known as Vinyoga in Sanskrit. So the applicability of these qualities or the relevance of these qualities in the present context is what is known as Vinyoga, which is mentioned in the 23rd Sutra as commented upon by Swami Madhavala. So he says, Kuttak Gande Nitodangi, அதாவது ஆஷ்ரேனோர் முகனான இச்சேதனன் தன் தோஷத்தை பார் அஞ்சாமை குகப்பு தோஷத்தை போக்கியமாக கொள்ளும் வாத்சல்யம். I explained this in detail already, so I just read it through. காரியம் செய்யாவோ வென்று சங்கையில் காரியன் செய்யும் என்று விஸ்வசிக்கை குகப்பு இழவு பேருந்து தாம்படியான சுவாமித்துவம். உபய விபூதிக்கும் கடவனாயிருக்கும் பெருமைக்கு பிரகாசகமான சுவாமித்துவத்தைக் கண்டு ஸ்வதிகரிஷானுசந்தானத்தாலே அகலாமை குவப்பு தாழ்ந்தவர்களோடே உரையறக் கலக்கும் ஸ்வபாவமான சௌஷீல்யம் அதீந்திரியன் என்று பிற்காலியா முற்கண்ணாலே கண்டு ஆශ්‍රயிக்கை குகப்பு தன்படிவை சக்ஷுர் விஷயமாக்குகிற சௌலபியம் சர்வபாபேபியோ மோக்ஷயிஷ்யாமி என்கிறபடியே பிராப்தி விரோதியை போக்கி பிராபியமான தந்தை உபகரிக்கை குகப்பு பிராப்தாவானவன் கீழ் நின்ற நிலையும் மேற்குறக்கூடிய அறிக்கைக்கு அறிந்தவரடியே செய்து தலைக்கட்டைக்கும் ஏகாந்தங்களான ஞான சக்திகள் இருக்கை. So this I have already explained until now. So this is the purport of the 23rd Sutra. The 24th Sutra is as follows. Ingichanna saulabhyakku ellengilam archavataram, etc. This Sutra we will read and understand in the next class. I am sorry for the repeated interruptions due to my running nose. Kindly excuse me. We will stop here today. If there are any live questions, we can ask.
Swami, you're mentioning about Nitya Samsarans, and we know that the Dvaitins, followers of Madhvacharya, they believe in eternal hell for Tama Yogins, what they call Nitya Samsarans, who are unable to attain moksha. And also they believe that Rajasic souls will stay in samsara forever. So either go to hell or stay in samsara forever. Two classes of jivatmas. It seems very problematic, this idea, to me, but as you said, but how do we understand this saying by the Lord in Bhagavad Gita, where he says that I will cast them down eternally, those persons who are sinful.
So the question, when you see it purely from the point of view of Vedanta, that is the Upanishads, or the Brahma Sutras for that matter, the Jivatmas emerge from the Paramatma, or the Supreme Lord. And once again, they merge into him. This is what is mentioned literally in the Upanishads. Because yatha sudiptat pavakat sahasrashah prabhavante sarupaha तथा अक्षराद विविधा सौम्य भावाः प्रजायन्ते तत्र चैव अभ्यन्ति is the statement in the Upanishads. And we also accept, as mentioned in the Chandogya, it is very well accepted in Sri Bhashya that during the state of Pralaya, there is only one entity, that is the Supreme Lord. And the Jivatmas and Achidvastus are the insentient souls and insentient objects. They are in a form that cannot be distinguished. They exist in the Supreme Lord, but we cannot distinguish in a form that is totally undistinguishable from the Supreme Lord. And there is only one entity. So that is why we say Ekameva. Before the process of creation started, that entity was known as by the only word called Sat, and no other word can denote that entity other than the word Sat. Because when you say Brahma, that is in a different stage. Because the word Brahma is derived from the root Brihi Vriddhau, that which expands itself. And in the Taittiriya Upanishad also he said, Say Ekaki Naramata. Earlier he was only one, and he did not like that state. So he said, Bahusyam Prajayeti. Then that Brahman dissolved I shall multiply myself. Bahusyam prajayeya. So this is very well every day we chant the Taittiriya Upanishad. In that it says Bahusyam prajayeti. And in all the Upanishads it is mentioned, he was only one. There was only one entity before creation. Did the Chit and Achit exist within him? Yes, they existed. How? In a way that it is totally undistinguishable. We say Namarupa Vibhaga Anarahatvam. The names are forms of any entity, whether it is Achit or Achit, were not there at that time. That is why we call it as Sukshma Chirachit Vishishtam Brahma. Kinnama Sukshmatvam. Namarupa Vibhaga Anarahatvam. Even the Supreme Brahman doesn't know, because it doesn't have a separate form or name in that state. That's what Ramanujacharya says. So it doesn't know about itself because that it is not in that form where it can distinguish between this is the Chitta aspect or the Jivatma aspect. This is the Achita aspect. So it is one whole thing, one whole entity, which of course consists of Chitta and Achit, but we cannot distinguish. Neither can the Brahman itself distinguish. Then it multiplied itself into many forms, names and forms. Namely Jivatmas and Achit. So many insentient objects. Then what happens? Once again in Pralaya, all these will merge into the Supreme God once again. That is what is called as Pralaya. So this is the process that is explained in the Upanishads, which is very well validated and explained by Ramanujacharya also. So then what do you call, how do you say what is Nitya Samsari? Will it merge? Merge means once again, the question should not be asked whether it will become totally one as the Advaitins say, or will there be some small distinction? So that is another big issue. People are very, very, very adamant about to understand or even discuss. Say, no, that merging is totally impossible. So he will remain separate only. So but then several other questions crop up. If you say he merges, then how is it that you call him Jivatma and Paramatma? Some other question. It's a very, very tricky question. And my guru used to say, see, that state is beyond our comprehension. So however much you discuss will not be resolved. Don't discuss it too much. You have to say. Because even if you discuss for 10,000 years, this issue will not get resolved. Because we don't know what is it, what is that state, how it is, what is going to happen, etc. But if you say Nitya Samsari exists, then at the time of Pralaya, will he go into the Supreme Lord or not? So if you say he doesn't go, then what is the meaning of Pralaya? How will it become one once again? How will it become one single entity? So like this, several problems arise. But then how do you interpret this? If you don't accept Nitya Samsari, not only there are several other issues, let us not worry about them. Then how do you interpret this saying that I will eternally banish them? I will say to it that they never come to me at all. So it's a very, very tricky question. So I hope I have thrown some light on the question rather than answering it. I have elaborated on the question because it's such a deep topic which is beyond our comprehension. So what is your reaction or any other question?
My reaction is it sounds like Anivachaniya. It sounds like what the Advaitins say. Anivachaniya, that it cannot be discovered.
It is, as of now, we are not able to decide properly. It is beyond our comprehension. That much we can say.
That usually we see that there's a distinction between Eastern and Western religions. That in Eastern religions we see time as cyclical. That things are cyclical. We get the yugas going around like this, and whereas Western religions see time as being linear as having a beginning and having no end, like that. But so if you're describing the Supreme as one and then becoming many and then again becoming one, this is again cyclical. So in a sense, it sounds like the Advaitins are correct.
It's not Advait. See, Advaitins are not correct because they say Jivatma itself is a farce. We are not saying like that because that is why in the recent Shri Bhasham class I explained it in great detail. You have to understand the distinction properly. They say Brahman itself becomes the Jiva and it itself undergoes bondage and it itself undergoes liberation. Whereas Vishishtadvaita does not say that because Upanishads don't say like that. Even in the Bhagavad Gita, the Lord says, Mamaiva amshaha jivaloke jiva bhutaha sanatana. So it is a part. But once again, if the Brahman becomes a sum of several parts, then it becomes anitya, non-eternal. That very, very, very fundamental flaw comes into play. So this Amsha-Amshi Bhava is very, very important. So though the Supreme Lord has given birth to the Jivatmas, or the Jivatmas emanate from the Supreme Lord, they are parts that do not make them non-eternal. So that is where the beauty of Vedanta lies, that these ordinary logics do not apply to the Supreme Brahman because this Brahman is beyond all other worldly objects. So that is why we say Amshamshi Bhava, Sharira Shariri Bhava, several other things, where we accept the Jivatma as real, whereas Advaitins don't accept it as real. And if you say that it was one earlier and it became many, and all our Vedic passages go for a toss. And even the Shri Bhasham Bhagavad Ramadacharya, whatever he has said, it will become invalid. So that is why I was telling, now the Dvaitins say this Jivatma and Paramatma are two distinct entities like this. I have a sheet of tablet and a book here. These can never become one and these two they are totally distinct from each other. So Jivatma and Paramatma are like that. They can never become, they can even not be called even one in any stage. No. Ramadacharya has refuted such a philosophy 100 times in the Shri Bhasham. That is why we say Sharira Shariri Bhava, Amshamshi Bhava, Upadara Upadaya. So when you say this part is mud, there is no distinction between the mud and the pot. But when the mud is in the state of a lump like this, it cannot be used for drinking water. But when it acquires the state of a pot, then it can be used to drink. So suppose I say you are telling mud is one. So if I want to bring water, if I bring a lump of mud, what will you say? You will laugh or you will get angry. Pot. So at that stage, there is distinction. So distinction also we accept. Oneness also we accept. This is the importance of Ramanujacharya's philosophy, which is accepted by all our Purvacharyas. So that distinction you have to be very, very, very careful. If you say they are like what we call as ghata and pata, like the pot and the cloth, which can never be one. No, that type of relationship between Jivatma and Paramatma we never accept. So there we say Sharira Shariri Bhava. Can a body exist within the body without a soul? If it is without a soul, it's not even called a body for that matter. Always it has to be associated with the body. A soul has always to be associated with the body. Even in the state of liberation, it has a divya sharira. In bondage, it has a prakrita sharira. During progress, going from one place to another, then also it is endowed with sukshma sharira, or then karana sharira. So without Sharira, Shariri cannot exist. Without Shariri, Sharira cannot exist. But there is a state when Sharira and Shariri become one. So that is the nuance of Ramanujacharya's philosophy that you have to understand.
So there's some distinction. There's some distinction, but and that distinction is real. So it is called Parinamavad.
Yes.
Right? Yes.
Yes. Yes.
So the difference is that they say that the distinction is unreal.
Who say?
Advaitins by Vartavad.
No, not only distinction is unreal, there is only one object. So how can there be two?
Right.
So distinction, there are at least two objects. Even if it is part, you don't accept the part and whole relationship also. Because the parts are also not true according to them. So even they say only Mrittike Etyeva Satyam is the statement. So the mud is true. All the forms that it takes, whether it is a part or it is a lump or afterwards if you break the part, it will become pieces. All those are untrue. Because it is the state of mud that is evident in all these places. So only mud is true. That means Upadana and Brahman is true. Upadaya are all Mikhya. All the states or states of existence that it has, they are all Mikhya. So that is what they say. Therefore they say Brahman itself, it looks like the Jiva, but Jiva is not there. Which is what is contradicted by us. If you say Brahman itself undergoes bondage, then how can it be called the Brahman at all? And say in Vedanta Sangraha, he says, Param Brahmaivagyam Brahma Parigatam Samsariti. Can there be a more foolish philosophy than this? You say Brahman itself, if it undergoes bondage, how can it be called the Brahman? It's a mutually contradictory statement. Rachet Ramanujetyesha Chatura Chaturakshari Kamavastha Prapadyante Jantavo Hantamadrisha Punyam Bhoj Vikasaya Papadvan Dakshayaya Cha Shivan Avirabhut Bhumau Ramanujadivakaraha Nikrita Virincharijaram Kushe Bhuteha Ramanujapadaam Bhoj Samashena Shamitaha.
श्रीशैलेश दयापात्रम् दीभक्त्यादिगुणार्णवम् यतीन्द्रप्रवणम् वन्दे रम्यजामातरम् मुनिम् लक्ष्मीनाथसमारम्भाम् नाथयामुनमध्यमाम् अस्मदाचार्यपर्यन्ताम् वन्दे गुरुपरम्पराम् यो नित्यम् अच्युतपदाम्बुजयुग्मरुक्मव्यामोहतस्तदितराणि तृणाय मेने अस्मद्गुरोर्भगवतोऽस्य दयैकसिन्धोः रामानुजस्य चरणौ शरणं प्रपद्ये लोकाचार्याय गुरवे कृष्णपादस्य सूनवे संसारभोगिसन्दष्टजीवजीवातवे नमः।
ॐ नमो नारायणाय।